Hi, I named this video "The Lies of the Right," the lies that capitalist philosophers and economists they tell the world, and there's a lot of conservative commentators. You hear these things. They talk about socialism as if it has always been a complete failure, and oh my God, you are terrible, and they keep going on that. It's just like a sentence argument, and it's over. But it's not over because the United States hasn't entered into a real economic crash to figure out that, hey, what we did or what we produce as a nation, or what we provide the world in return for all we get, is nothing but a bunch of crap. We threaten and make wars and make weapons, and well, the world that we live in, it does the same thing, it's just a little better, and they have also huge manufacturing capacity, huge populations, huge armies. Well, we don't have those, but we have monies that we print and we give it to here and there. We buy some friends, and then our media tells us the world the way we want it to be and the way it should look like, and yeah, that's why it's called the lies of the right, the lies that the capitalists or the new cons or new liberal philosophers or economists tell the world. But really, actually, where we live in this world is that the countries that are socialist, or they were socialist, and they have modified their system, become mixed now, like Russia. They are actually the ones that produce all the wealth. For example, Russia produces the best weapons, has the best engineers. They make the best fighter planes. They are the ones that have sound money, sound economic system. They are the ones that many countries look for to get industrial development or to buy and sell commodities. It goes ditto with China. Actually, China is communist, but they are the ones that have the wealth. They are the ones that make the decisions. They are a positive force in the world. They have a soft foreign policy. You don't have to sit and worry about suddenly a million Chinese landing in Afghanistan. So the, the ability to see that what a commentator or what a news organization is telling you is that it is complete fib and it's a complete lie. You should look deeply. This ability is not very common. It comes from having real smarts, real high IQ, real good education, knowing a few foreign languages, and seeing how things develop over a historical period, and never develops the way many Americans think they should develop. One of the things that I was watching Greg Hunter, and he was saying that actually what in actuality happened in U.S. Congress and Senate is that they passed a law that was very friendly to immigration, to foreigners coming in. Regardless of what Trump wanted with his wall and with his $5 billion, well, they said, "Oh, we're going to give you all this, but you're going to have to sign all these other ones," and all the things that he has to sign for it, and they are extremely friendly. It's like having an open border, but there is the wall, and we paid for it. But what it actually happened is that the people that are in the Senate or in the Congress, they are recipients of real world news and real economic and political pressures, and they cannot really go according to a campaign promise that somebody made. In fact, immigration into the United States has is like a third of what it used to be 5 years ago. So many sectors of U.S. economy they starve for labor. For example, many of these farms where the agricultural products are collected, they need even the unskilled labor, and the U.S. is buying or importing food from South American countries. Is not a net producer, and there are industries that they must have. You cannot export your dairy farms, because if something happens, then your own population will be without food. Something like that. And then another argument, for example, they were talking about Venezuela and what a failure they are, that they economically and because they're socialists. But that's a complete baloney, because there are other socialist countries and they're doing very well, and they have a lot of surpluses. Well, I could just name like China is a communist, but they have a tremendous amount of wealth and industry, and they have very friendly relations with many countries. And then just because the core or skeleton of an economy is socialist does not mean that they're failures. They have had problems because belligerent foreign countries like United States come in and sanction them, damage their banking industry, damage or try to steal central bank gold, or make treaties with the belligerent other foreign countries, try to invade them. Then the country has to spend money and time and resources to get weapons and organize itself to prevent this happening. All these monies that was formerly going into their economy is dedicated to trying to stop United States. Well, I had a video. It was called Sanctions, Warfare, and Blowbacks. I think that we are living inside like a dead empire, and the population is so delusional that thinks that we are in the 1950s and we can just continue our massive military expenditures, and because all the media keeps lying to the population, everything just happens to the Americans. Well, I think that like one of these days, suddenly the value of the dollar is going to drop like a third of what it is worth today. It's like, well, that's a surprise. No, it's not a surprise for somebody who studies these markets and doesn't buy all this crap and propaganda the U.S. government or their economists they tell themselves, hey, the socialists, they're such failures. The Iranians are failures. The Chinese are failures. We are the beautiful American, the exceptional, and we can make wars and keep going until the cows come home. Well, I do think that there is going to be a lot of surprises here, but going back to thinking about the economic system, the Americans, they don't tell themselves the successes that the socialist systems have had. And the socialist system doesn't have to be entirely socialist, and entirely everything has to be managed by government. There are many that have modified these systems and they are now like mixed economies. Some things are better handled by Politburo. For example, there are many things that in the United States that are completely socialist or even communist, but they have a different names. I want to tell you a few of them. The Department of Agriculture in the United States pays farmers subsidies to grow food, to grow corn, to grow barley, and then at the same time it gives millions of Americans food stamp. So basically, the government makes the food through its farmers that are signed up with it, and then makes sure that millions of Americans that don't have good jobs eat the food. Okay, is that communist or not? And this is not a small scale little program in a little town. This is across all of United States. And because there is such a socialist system, people don't go hungry, and because families have a backbone, they are able to do other things. They are able to do other kinds of jobs, other kinds of industries that make better kind of products or better kind of pay. Another communist system that's well and alive in the United States is all the money that the government sinks into research, into academia, all the programs that are research in all kinds of fields. None of them make any kind of return on investment. For example, I take courses and I get money from the government. It helps me become an attorney. Okay, what kind of return on investment the government itself gets? Just about zero. But the return investment comes in when companies or individuals take this research, take this wealth that's hidden, and use it to make products, use it to create companies that produce or do things that are, is not like living or working as a peon, but is a more valued product, a more advanced civilization. Well, there is a sentence attributed to Jesus. It said, "You know a tree by its fruits." You shouldn't look at the short-term gains of capitalist systems. They are destructive and they always degenerate into fascism. Right now, they are debating what to do with all these U.S. companies and their executives that are buying their own shares back. Okay, the company is like consuming itself or destroying itself from inside. Okay, they are not investing in infrastructure. They are not investing in getting better labor pool. Everything comes from foreign countries, including entirely manufactured and designed products. So these companies, many of them, many U.S. companies, they're like zombie creatures. Okay, so if you take zombie creatures, economic system, and subject them to real market forces, like having to work and live and produce in foreign countries where the companies are far leaner, the wages are lower, people work, everybody works, and there aren't as many subsidies. The cost of production is far lower. The cost of products that come in, they're very cheap. Now, what do you think will happen to 90% of U.S. companies when they're subjected to real market forces. Okay, is like being, if the government stopped giving these people subsidies, sponsoring them, giving them $1 zillion worth of research for free. What do you think is gonna happen to these stupid companies that have been engaging in nothing but fraud and mismanagement? They'll be dead within like a month. Okay, the reason we have still some kind of economy, some kind of companies, is because of all these stopgaps, all the money that the government prints and gives it to them in various forms. Then another thing that many of these capitalism lovers they fail to mention is that the the monies for the U.S. government and many industries comes from a private bank. It's called the Federal Reserve, but it's really a private bank that's owned by the cabal, by the Jews and the Zionists. Okay, and many the philosophies or payment options that it pursues are secretly in a form that helps these foreign participants, like the Wahhabis and the Zionists. A lot of the stuff that the government does is really appeasement to these foreigners in secret, and also at the same time try to look presentable to the Americans. I saw that they had passed a law that says that, okay, you can now boycott Israel in the United States. You know, like, is the government or the stupid politicians they're going out of their way, you know, to make laws that's favorable to belligerent foreign country. I don't know what they are doing on the side for Wahhabis or Saudi, but there are a lot of conspiracy theory that the Bush family, they knew about the 9/11 that's going to happen, and they benefited, or certain people knew before it happened. Another theory or another observation is that many economists that have to deal with the real U.S. economy, they say that the capitalism or Western capitalism that's in Europe, in the United States, it really died in 2008 crisis, and really what we have here is nothing more than money printing and Keynesian militarism to just pump money into a really sick economy. Okay, if the Western capitalism was a good thing, our economy or Western Europe economy wouldn't be so sick. They wouldn't be going on all kinds of sideways and byways to do business with Russia and China or Iran or the Arabs, modifying their laws and making secret deals and contributions. Well, I hope that some of my audience, they develop this skill of looking at all this propaganda and see through it that it is nothing but baloney. I think the best economic system is a mixed economic system with some sectors being in the hand of private individuals, but the stuff that is really bread and butter and the whole population has to benefit, like the oil industry or mining, they should be socialist system. They should be owned and operated by the government, and the money go to as taxes to pay for all kinds of other stuff that we have to deal with. Well, thank you for being in my YouTube channel. Please subscribe and leave a comment. Don't be shy.